Welcome back to Still a Part of Us. We are once again here with Mom Paige. She is the mom to Sebastian, and we just got done chatting with her about the birth story of her son Sebastian. And so, welcome again, Paige. We are grateful to have you on to talk a little bit more about what grief has looked like after your son has passed away. So, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys wanting to talk with us.
Yes, for sure. So I wanted to just to give everybody context, can you tell us a little bit about Sebastian, like, and how long ago he was born?
Sebastian was a stillborn at 38 weeks. I had him with a still placental abruption. So we had him at 38 weeks on March 9th of 2022. So we just celebrated his birthday a few months ago. And that was hard, but it was a good day.
Yeah, it those anniversaries, those birthdays are really tough. So thank you, Paige, for giving us that a little bit of information. I know that we ended on your birth story about after you guys brought Sebastian home. And we were actually talking between hand about how involved our little kids are, even if they're gone
Mhm.
in our lives still. So would you mind telling us like what happened after when you went to your family vacation?
Yeah. We actually had planned this vacation before anybody knew I was pregnant.
Mhm.
So when I told everybody, they were like, "Oh my gosh, we get to bring a baby to the beach, and it's gonna be so much fun. They get to experience sand and the ocean, and we get to do all these fun things." And all of a sudden, we don't.
Yeah.
So when we were packing, I told Ben, I said, "I'm bringing him with me." He said, "No, you're not, because what if he breaks?" I said, "But," I said, "he needs to come with us. I can't leave him home." I'm like, I'm essentially leaving my baby home alone.
Yeah. It feels
So
not great.
we compromised, and I brought some pictures with us. And so on one of our final days at the beach, we took some family photos and I brought him down to the beach and me and Ben
Mm,
took pictures with him and we put his picture down on like a towel and put some seashells around him and took pictures of that. And so
yeah.
that was, as much as not having the baby there really sucked, but it helped to bring some more closure to he still gets to be involved even if he's not here.
Yeah. And you're gonna remember him. He's gonna be with you.
Always.
Always, always. That's what happens. So it's been a little over a year for you guys. How did that grief process look right after, like, the first few months after, and how has that evolved over time?
So the first couple months, I was put on some very heavy antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And Ben was put on a little bit, but not as much as I was. And
Mhm.
so he was able to stay home for 6 weeks with me. And I remember that I couldn't have it quiet.
Mm.
So my sister, as a preschool teacher, she will put on like aquarium background noise for her little kids that she teaches, like during quiet time.
Oh,
So there's one day it was just me and her at the house. And so she turned that on. And so that became our new normal, going to bed with it, just laying in the living room. It always had to be on. I could not be in the silent because you don't realize how deafening that silence is when you don't have a baby that's crying and needing you.
mhm.
So there was always some kind of noise, and we always like referred to Sebastian as our baby bear.
Mhm.
So Ben actually found like a nature one that had a lot of baby bears in it. And so
Oh,
that really
really?
that was nice to watch because it was just a very calming music and it had a nice little background with baby bears playing and so it was
That's
like he was
so
with
sweet.
us.
Yeah, that's so sweet. So, really difficult. Yeah, you kinda feel like you're gonna crawl out of your skin, I think. Like,
Yes.
that's how I felt. You're just like, "Ah, like, what am I doing here?" And because you had stopped working, at,
Mhm.
like, around 36 weeks. If you listen to her birth episode, you find out that Paige had stopped working at 36 weeks because that kinda made sense. Ben was
Mhm.
able to get 6 weeks of disability. They wouldn't do paternity leave, which is so maddening, but
Mhm.
disability, so that's great. I that he was able to be home with you, but eventually he had to go back to work.
Yes. And he would call me on every break and he would
Mm,
text me of the day and are you okay? Did you eat lunch? Are you going to take a nap today? Did you shower? What are you doing today?
mhm,
So he always was always making sure that I was okay even if he wasn't here.
yeah. Were you thinking about going back to work, or were you like, "Well, we're
I didn't return to work until about 6 months later.
Mhm.
I didn't return to the job that I had because I just couldn't, because I spent my whole pregnancy there.
Right.
I worked 5 days a week, and I was there for 8 hours a day, and I can't go back there because that's where I spent a majority of my pregnancy.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I started a new job that was closer to home and had a little bit of better hours for me, and honestly, I think is for the better that I
Mm.
started somewhere else anyways, so
Yeah. Because then you would also get the same questions of if you went back to that old job of like, "How's the baby?" And you're like, "Not here." And it is
luckily, when I worked at that company, it was only 3 other people that worked there,
okay.
and so I texted my boss a couple weeks after and was like, because I knew she was gonna give me some time to, like, adjust with the baby and everything, and so I texted her and I told her what happened, and she actually came over and visited with us, and she brought
Oh,
dinner, and we talked, and I showed her pictures, and even though I no longer worked there, she was very supportive of it.
that is so kind. Yeah. People are so kind, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. It's always that's one thing that's come out of this. I realize how good people are, how
Yes.
kind they are. So that was kind of earlier on, and I know that your OB was awesome and really just took care of you, was watching you pretty closely when,
Mhm.
afterward. She was the one that was suggested going on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications.
It wasn't even a suggestion, she said, "You're gonna take these."
Okay, okay, sh and
Yes.
you were like, "Yes, sign me up."
It was more my mom. She went and picked up the prescription, and we joked because I looked like an old lady with all my 10 million medications that they were giving me. And so I had a schedule of when I was to take them, and they were lined up on our counter. And because at that point, I wasn't allowed to get up by myself because of the major surgery.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of
So,
loss of blood too, so yes.
so when she had to go back to work and it was just me and Ben, she said, "This is what you give her. You check it off the list. You make sure you write down when it was given." And so we joked we had these little ramekins, and she said, "This is now the med cup, and this is what you will give her."
There you go. And did you feel like that helped you during that first little
I think
while?
it definitely did, because as much as I was in and out of consciousness, but helped my mind just go somewhere else. I didn't have to sit there and think about it,
Mhm.
because if I wasn't on all that medication to begin with, I would have sat there and thought about it and thought about what I could have done differently, what I should have said, what I should have done in the hospital, and, like, everything that I could have done but didn't.
Yeah. You could easily spiral out of control. Like, yes, you can yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
As a few months out, like, right, because he was born in March and you guys went on that family vacation. You brought him with you.
Mhm.
And have you found some things that were helpful to process your grief or get through the anger or get through all of those, like they say there's steps of grief. And I was like, nope, they're all over the place. So is there anything that really helped you walk through some of those times?
So we actually what helped me with my anxiety a lot was we went back to the funeral home and got some ashes out, and we went to a local jeweler who actually did my wedding set, and we put his ashes into a ring.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was like as soon as I got that, I felt like a weight was lifted off of me because I got to have him with me.
Yeah, he was on you. He was
Yeah.
yeah.
He was physically on me at all
That's
times. And there was at one point we had to get it appraised, and they're like, "Oh, you can just leave it with us." I said, "No, actually, I will
mm,
do it here.
mhm.
You can take it back to the back, and you'll give it back to me right away."
Yes.
So that definitely helps process. So if that's something that we talked about in our support group
Mhm.
that the hospital that we went to actually host, and even if you didn't give birth there, you're invited to all these meetings and everything, and they have it once a month, and so that's been a great help. And I've told all the moms there that you can get this ring, and it's not actually his ashes aren't in the stone. So that way, if the stone does get lost, it's encapsulated underneath. So that way, if for some reason the stone does get lost, you still have the ashes.
What he that's that's cool, like, the way they they built that, actually.
Yes.
They set that together. Oh, yeah. I and you mentioned that you guys go to a support group.
Mhm.
How and is that just you, or is it also Ben that go?
Ben is the only dad that actually goes.
Really?
Yes. And so when we were going, he was the only dad that would show up, and other dads, of course, were invited. Anybody that like my mom
Mhm.
came at one point, and like if whoever can benefit from it is more than welcome to come. And so they actually put on a walk to remember in October,
Mhm.
and they asked Ben to speak at it because they're like, we never have had a dad's point of view. We
Yeah.
always have the mom or like a grandparent or a nurse or a doctor.
Yeah.
So they're like, we would love to have that dad's point of view because they don't get to have that because it's during this time it's all about what the mom needs because they're the one going through all that trauma.
Mhm.
So that was really nice that they asked him to do it, and it
Yeah.
was really meaningful that he got to tell all these people our story and about Sebastian.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have hardly any dads that are able to or want to share, and so we're always so grateful. So when Ben was like, "Can we share?" I was like, "Oh, yes." And in fact, I think he shared his talk from that walk of remembrance, as part of the podcast too. So I will put a link in there, the show notes so that you guys can see that because, that is really cool to hear his
It was very
experience.
moving. When he was up on the stage, I was in the audience, and he said he looked out, he's like, "There was not a single dry eye," and people were crying with us and coming up to us afterwards and giving us hugs and being like, "I'm so sorry for your loss," even though they had lost a baby as
Yeah,
well, and so it was really amazing how a community like that came together and was supporting not only us, but everybody else that was there.
yeah, that's really cool. You have mentioned many times your mom and your sister.
Yes.
And this is the first grandbaby for your mom, and she was spending a lot of money on Sebastian.
Yes.
I would love to hear how they have coped and dealt with it and processed their own grief and how they've also supported you and how that looked.
So my sister was unfortunately not able to come to the birth and
Mhm.
everything, and so she never actually got to meet Sebastian.
Yeah.
But during the few weeks afterwards, when she could be there, she was. And so she didn't take it as hard because she didn't really get to see him and get
Yeah.
to meet him. And so she still lives with my mom, and so she's definitely there to support her and help her through it because my mom stayed with us for about 2 weeks, and she made sure that
Afterward.
we were being fed and being showered and laundry was done, and so that truly helped us grieve because we were able to actually not have to think about the basic needs that we needed.
Right, the day-to-days. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was one point Ben hadn't showered in days,
Yeah.
and so she said, "You need to go take a shower." And he said, "Okay." And then she saw him walk through the house, and she's like, "Have you showered yet?" He said, "No." She said, "Benjamin, I'm a nurse. I've seen it before. I will get you in the shower if I need to."
Oh, that's funny.
And he said, "Nope, it's okay. I'll go shower."
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yep, that's basically what it was. So during that time, she was allowing us to grieve, so she didn't really get to because she did. I think she thought that it wouldn't be fair for us to see her fall apart.
Yeah.
So I felt like took a little bit longer to grieve because she didn't get to grieve in that first few weeks
Mm,
of it.
mhm,
So she has pictures of Sebastian in her house, and like she like up in Branson, Missouri, there's a place called Silver Dollar City.
mhm,
So she showed me this vase. She's like, "I bought this for Sebastian." So that way she can put flowers beside his pictures and everything. And she had a local glassmaker make purple butterflies for me and her to have for him.
mm,
Because as you know, the purple butterfly is a symbol of infancy loss. And
yeah.
so we have a lot of butterflies in our home.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, it's a nice little hopeful symbol. I like it a lot. Yeah, so that's hard, when you have somebody that is like, watching their child suffer and mourn and grieve and having to take care of you essentially, but not have a chance to also mourn and grieve, but she really wanted to take care of you, and that's so, like, so sweet that she's mama nurse, mama like
She on it like Ben likes to like he brags on her all the time. He's like, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have gotten through it.
Yeah,
Like she was truly amazing. And I mean, I'm biased because she is my mom, but I can't imagine going through that time without her.
yeah. And then I think it's cool that your sister was able to support your mom too, kind of,
Oh,
like, in the back end. They always talk about having, like, the people that are the most affected right in the middle, and the
Mhm.
people outside should support in and just keep supporting in. Because yeah, because I don't know about you, but we've had people that have been more upset sometimes about our loss, and you're like comforting them, and you're like, "This is weird." Like,
Yes,
you should be
yes, I've
comforting
had that happen.
us.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is reversed.
Yes, yeah. So just a word of advice for people maybe that listening, like if you are supporting somebody, don't yeah, you don't wanna be the one that needs to be supported slash comforted because ask somebody else to help you do that.
Yes, ask somebody else to comfort you, not
Yeah, the
the
mom and
grieving
dad
parents.
need you
Yes,
actually.
yes.
So, tell us I would love to hear what you guys ended up doing for Sebastian's first birthday.
So
Tell us a
for
little bit
his
more. Yeah, or his first memorial. I don't know because unfortunately you guys found out on one day and he was born the next day, and so I don't
mhm.
know if you guys celebrate both of the days. It's always yeah, that's always a little tricky one actually, I think.
We only celebrated on his day, on
Mhm.
his birthday, March 9th. But, I had talked with my boss and was like I went in there and I was probably a little abrasive about it, but I said, "I will not be here these days."
Good.
And she kinda looked at me and I told her, explained the situation. She's like, "Oh, no, absolutely. You need to be at home. Please do not come in."
Yes, yeah. You're like, "I'm gonna be ineffective completely and a hot mess."
So
That's what
I
I
took
told my boss.
yes. So I took off the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and Ben was off a couple of those days already and then
Good.
had taken a vacation day so that way he could be home with me. And so on that day, his side of the family, brother, sister-in-law, and then his mom and stepdad came over. And then my side of the family, my sister, my mom, my stepdad came over. We, a couple days before, me and Ben went to a flower shop and brought all the vases that we had gotten from people sending us flowers
Oh, uh-huh.
and filled them with blue and white flowers because that's seemed to be what we because he was a boy, so lots of blue.
Mhm.
So we got flowers and we put them all over the house and we went and got cupcakes made from this bakery that did our gender reveal.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then we got some balloons that were biodegradable
Mhm.
that had a little I don't remember exactly what it said, like in our hearts always or something. And so we filled enough of those and we released them as a family.
Oh, that's great.
And we just kind of sat around and we talked about him. And then towards the end of the evening, around 6, I want to say, me, Ben, my mom, and his mom went and got tattoos for Sebastian.
You did?
And they all have his ashes in them.
Wait, how what? How did
So you just take a little bit of the ash and they put it inside the ink and they mix it up. And then
uh,
when they are putting it in the ink, it actually is embedded into your skin.
oh,
A
wow,
lot
so
of
you
tattoo artists won't do it because they think it like
put
degrades the integrity of the ink. But
uh-huh.
the person that actually did it for us is like, what is black ink made of? Sorry,
Yes.
made of ash. So I'm not
Yes.
disturbing the integrity. It's already made of ash. So what's a little bit more?
Yeah. That is fun. Okay, and what was the design?
So mine is his name in cursive and
Okay.
it's like a stem into his birth flower, which is a daffodil, and it has a
Mm.
butterfly next to it.
Uh-huh.
And then Ben has the same font of his name on his bicep. I have mine. I don't know if you can see it. Like it's right here.
Oh, yes, okay. It's just on her
And
wrist
that's
if you are listening on the
it's the
podcast.
same design on my shirt as well.
Oh, is it?
And so then my mom got hers over her heart, which is an infinity sign with a butterfly, and it has
Mhm.
purple on it with his initials. And his mom got his tiny set of his feet prints
Oh,
as angel wings.
oh, that's kind of fun that you guys did that together.
Like my mom had talked about it before, and because she had never had a tattoo, and neither
Mhm,
had his
mhm,
mom.
mhm.
And so finally, she's like, "Well, what if we did it for his birthday?" I was like, "Let's do it. Let's go. I already have a tattoo. Ben already
Bring it
has
on.
tattoos." I'm like, Absolutely. Let's go. Let's do it." So Ben now gets to carry him with him as well.
Yeah. That is so cool. I've never heard of that before. That's pretty cool. And that the fact that the artist was like, "Yes, we can make this work."
And what made it even a little more special too was Ben's first tattoo and my first tattoo years ago actually happened to be the same artist.
What? Really?
And my mom was the one that set up the appointment, so she had no idea it was the same
What?
artist either.
What?
So that made it even a little more special that their first tattoos were done by the same person that did our first
Yeah.
tattoos.
Yeah. That's cool. And kind of a fun thing that you guys did for his birthday. Like, that's great.
Mhm. And at the end of the day, me and Ben went home and we kinda looked at each other and we're like I told him, I said, "Is it weird that I'm okay?" And he's like, "I was thinking the same thing," but he's like, "I didn't wanna say it because I didn't wanna make you feel bad or something." And I was like
Yeah.
he's like, "Of course I'm upset, but I feel okay."
Yeah. It's not
And that
like it's gonna go away, but it's yeah.
right, like
But there's times when you're gonna feel okay.
right, and I think a big part of what helped us grieve was we talked about him all the time. Like, not only to the support group that we go to, but, like, me and my mom, we still talk about him. We
Mhm.
or, like, I'll to my coworkers who have kids, they'll say something and I'll say something about Sebastian.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we talk about him all the time. So I think that's something that really helped us was we didn't keep it bottled in. We talked about him.
Yeah. I think I would probably agree with you on that as well. We talk about our son a ton, and it really helps us, A, feel like he's part of our family,
Right. Because he
and
is.
yeah, he totally is, and also B, so that it really just helps us like, he was a real person to us in our family, and what would I do with my kids normally? I would talk about them, so this is what I do.
Exactly. Like when we received our Mammy's Poppy plate,
Mhm.
which has his feet prints on it, and we got to pick out, I say I picked out the design.
Mhm.
Don't remember doing it. It showed up actually on Mother's Day
Oh, okay.
of his hand and footprints and his name and like all his birth stats.
Mhm.
And so, like, that's really special to me because they recognized that he was a person, he was
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
Like, anytime, like, a bunch of Ben's, like, gaming community, they sent him a controller with Sebastian's name on it.
Oh, well,
They're recognizing that our child was here.
yeah.
So that like, I love when people do that and they're not even part of the community that has lost a child and they're recognizing that.
Yeah. I would say that's probably. I mean, what I'm hearing is that this is really good advice for somebody that might be supporting a lost mom or lost dad, is just to recognize that the recognition is huge because you don't have proof that's walking around in your house or like,
Right.
you're holding that proof anymore. It's
And, like, it doesn't even have to be, "Oh, I bought this for them for the
Mhm.
child." It
Mhm.
just saying their name,
Mhm.
like, you're recognizing that that baby was here.
Yeah. Say their name. It's so,
Mhm.
so important.
Like, whenever I hear somebody say Sebastian's name, it fills my heart with so much pride and happiness and
Yeah.
that you're recognizing him without me having to bring him up.
Yeah. What are some other things that you found helpful as you were supported? Like, this recognition is a big deal, like, saying his name is a big deal, and it sounded I mean, your mom was there. What are some other things that you saw people do along the way that you wanna shout out and say thank you to? Because that's always I think it's always fun to hear what people have done to help.
Like, my sister-in-law for my first Mother's Day,
Mhm.
she actually had a wooden box made with Sebastian's name and a mom and a baby on it
Mm.
and said, "Too perfect for this world."
Mm.
So, any card that I've gotten or the like, his hospital bracelets I keep in there and it's in our
Oh,
bedroom.
yeah.
My sister-in-law actually came up with the tradition for her and her family because she has 2 little girls. She said, "Every year, I would love to get him a Christmas ornament."
Oh,
So that
yeah.
way, because me and Ben were planning on doing that anyways, because that's part of our tradition anyways, is we get each other an ornament each year for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we are gonna incorporate Sebastian into that. So, like, this year, we got it was a little bottle with some sand and some seashells in it to
Commit.
remember our trip to
Yeah.
the beach with him.
Yeah.
So, like, she got him a little Mickey Mouse because she's like, "What little boy wouldn't love Mickey Mouse?"
Mhm. Mhm.
So she's like, "I wanna get something that would represent his age."
Yeah.
So that is something that I thought was really special and that she came up with without me even having to ask.
Yeah. That's really kind of her to just be very aware and, like, telling her girls too, like, that's great.
And, like, her oldest one, she's 4. We have the girls not often, but when we do, we have pictures around the house,
Mhm.
and our niece will look at the picture and be like, "That's your baby." I'm like, "That is my baby."
Yeah,
And
that's so
so that's really special to us, and we have, like, a little willow tree,
little willow
figurine
tree
next to
figurine,
it,
uh-huh.
and it's a mom and a dad, and we have it next to his urn.
Mhm.
And she's like, "That's Aunt Paige and that's Uncle Ben
Oh,
looking at your baby."
yeah.
That is right. So they're teaching her that we have a baby, you just won't see him.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's if you have young kids and you have somebody that's going through that, teaching them that they're here, but they're not, that's really special to me that my nieces know that I have a baby.
Yeah. It's really cool when you're just like, yeah, we have little nieces and nephews too that do the same thing. They ask about him and they talk about him to our daughter, and I just think it's cool that the part of the family. Just that's all there is to it.
She cracked me up the other time, last time she was over here. One of the pictures that we have, his lips were really dark. And
Mhm.
she's like, "Your baby's wearing lipstick." Sure. If
Yes.
that's what the way you want to see it,
Yep.
yes.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Like my baby is wearing lipstick. Yep.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And are there any things that people maybe did or didn't do that yeah, I mean, I guess maybe are there any things that you shouldn't say or shouldn't do it,
Yeah.
to a
I, w-
lost
I,
mom or a lost
I
dad?
won't say them who they were, but
Yes,
they
don't
were.
call them out, but just like maybe
They
there's some things that would be a good advice to say, like, don't say this to a lost mom.
it was a family member who we called after it happened, and they said, "It's fine. You're young. You'll have more."
Oh,
And we heard that multiple times.
did you?
And that the fact that you were all so excited that this was the first boy and the first grandchild on one side, and that was your first reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that was one of the things that it broke my heart that that's how you saw it. Like, yeah, I am young and I might have more. There's a
Mhm.
possibility that I might not be able to have more,
Mhm.
or the possibility that maybe we don't want more.
Yeah.
So that's your first reaction is, oh, you'll have more.
Yeah. It makes your baby feel kinda disposable. That
Hmm.
sounds terrible, but
No,
that's
no,
just the
I
the feeling
agree.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're tossing them to the side when you were acting like you were going to be the most important person in their life when
Mhm.
that's what came out of your mouth.
Yeah. And I have found, because 'cause we've had that said to us as well. The problem is that I sometimes think they just don't quite realize the
Yes.
magnitude of that statement. They're just trying to make it feel better or, like, be able to help the person move on, but it doesn't really, but I always think that they always have good intentions, it's just it doesn't quite come off correctly, I think.
Right. Or like even we had a few family members that were kind of big in our lives that never once reached out to us.
Really?
Yeah, so that that hurt Ben more than
Mhm.
it hurt me. I was really angry about it because I'm like, you're a huge part of a family and you're not reaching out to us.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
And Ben was like, "Well, we're not reaching out either." I'm like, "We shouldn't have to ask them to reach out and check on us
Yeah.
because we're the ones that lost a baby,
Yeah.
not the other way around."
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what to say, like just what'd you have for lunch? What'd you do
Mhm.
today? Are you
Mhm.
watching anything good? Are you reading a good book? Doesn't even have to be about the baby. Just reach out.
Yeah. It makes a big difference.
It
Those
does because
those
it makes you feel seen and makes you
yeah.
feel like you're not alone.
Mhm. Through this really, really hard journey.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you if there was anything that you have done, you and Ben have done together to support each other as a couple as you go through this. Like, has there anything that's been like especially helpful or poignant that Ben has done for you to help you through this?
He made sure, like, when we went, I wanna say, like, 3 weeks, maybe less after, and
Hmm.
printed out probably 80 pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I couldn't really walk long distance at that point, so he wheeled me through Walmart, and we printed out pictures, and we picked out picture frames, and as soon as we got home, he started helping me put them in the frames, and we hung them up that same day, and, like, he really supported me with that,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, every night that I needed help getting it out of bed, he would help me with that, and he would make sure to tuck me in and give me the blanket with Sebastian's smell on it and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I was okay, and, like, if I text because when he has a day off, he'll stay up and play video games,
Yeah.
and so if I text him, I'd be like, I need you to come lay with me," or whatever. He would do that immediately, no questions asked. He would just
Yeah.
leave his game and come be with me.
Yeah.
I
That
think it just being there.
Yeah. And being available and because he's mourning as well, he and are also supporting you. Like, that's always kind of tricky, like, you're mourning, both of you are mourning, but trying to support each other.
And, like, he grieved and he cried, but at one point it was a few months before his first birthday, he just looked at me and he's like, "Is it okay if I cry?" I'm like, "Of course, he was your baby too, please grieve him, like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel like you have to ask me to grieve him."
Yeah.
So we sat in bed and I held him and he cried and
That's what you do, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's what you do. Paige, thank you. It has been so wonderful to talk to you. Is there any last little bit of advice or anything that you would like to share with us that would help somebody get through this?
A friend that I made because of the loss,
Mhm.
when she came over to visit, she brought a stuffed animal. She said, "So that way you can have something to hold. So that way, because you're supposed to be holding a baby right now, and while you can't, this is something you get to hold."
Yeah.
So that would be like, if you're gonna go visit someone who just had a loss, bring a stuffed animal so that way they have something to hold.
Yeah. It's always kind of nice to have that little bit of yeah, because your arms do feel like, yeah, there should be
Like,
something there.
I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? They feel like they have no purpose.
Mhm. Yeah. Once again, Paige, thank you so, so much for your time today. It's been so wonderful to meet you and Ben and get to know you. We were just chatting earlier before to like, oh yeah, if we lived closer, we would probably be friends. Like,
Yes, yes.
I was like, like this community has brought some of us close to some really amazing, amazing people, and so
I've met some of my very good friends because of
yes,
this,
yes,
and, like, I couldn't imagine not having them in my life now, and
yeah,
they've definitely helped me, and I've helped them, and
yeah, completely, completely.
yes.
So once again, thank you, Paige, and thanks for sharing Sebastian with us today.
Just thank you for having me.